It's back to work for a lot of us tomorrow, but for a lot of young adults, it's back to the couch. We're hearing more and more stories about young people clinging to mom, dad, and Uncle Sam, and it got us wondering what's up with a generation struggling to grow up. Here to help sort it out, Charlie Kirk and Hadley Heath. Welcome back, you guys. Always have fun with you guys. Okay, so how's the job market for young people? Let's start with Charlie.
It's terrible right now for lots of different reasons. Of course, the economy is down, but I look at a lot of young people, they expect when they graduate college that they're going to be the CEO of a Wall Street bank earning a seven-figure salary, and that's just not realistic. And I think that entitlement mentality is beat into them from an early age. I mean, you look at little leagues today, when they win, they don't even win the league and they get a trophy as big as the World Cup. Schools are no longer ranking students. I think this is an entitlement culture that's being beat into children from a very young age.
Hadley, aren't you entitled to, I don't know, a high-paying job, maybe a law firm? Wall Street will pick you up. Don't worry about it. If not, just go back to your parents' house and we'll send you a check.
If I work hard, maybe one day I will be CEO. But this is a case, like Charlie said, of not just a lazy or unrealistic generation. I would say this has to do with broader cultural expectations that we have for young adults. It used to be when you were 18, you're expected to grow up and get out of mom and dad's house. But today, young adults are doing a lot of those growing up activities, including getting married and moving out at a much later age. Yeah,
Charlie, half the country, 45 some odd % of households in America don't pay federal income tax. I mean, there is a culture of, listen, if I can't get it done myself, Uncle Sam will take care of it for me, isn't there?
Right, so it's not just an entitlement generation, but it's becoming an entitlement nation. So, my generation gets a pretty bad rap, saying that we always want things right away, instant gratification. But I look to our parents' generation and I see some very similar trends. So it's easy to say that the young people are very lazy, we don't want to work. But I think that it's a broader thing. It's a macro picture that we have to look at, that almost 47% of Americans don't pay federal income tax. It's not just the younger people, but it's also the entire nation.
And Hadley, the Occupy movement basically said, don't worry, look at us, we're entitled to all this stuff.
It's interesting because when my grandparents were young adults, they were working and, in fact, contributing back to their parents' household. So that was a different generation where you were expected to contribute to even your parents' home. And today, I believe Americans, it's natural for us to be future-oriented and to care about the future generation, to want the best for your children. But if you look at our public policy battles, and a lot of those that the occupiers were concerned about, we have a huge national public debt as well as personal debt for a lot of young Americans and older Americans alike. And that's not responsible. That's not something that my generation should have to pay the price for, but we will.
You guys are going to pay a lot in student loan debt. Hadley, let me just stay with you for a second. Let's say you have 10 friends. How many of those 10 friends think like you?
Think like me in terms of the government's role?
Think like you in terms of, I need to go out and get a job. I don't want to live off the dole.
I think that the majority of people in my generation still have that desire for independence. I think that's an American virtue, but they may want it later. As you said, later in life, they don't expect that in their 20s that they'll be at a place to do that on their own.
Charlie, very quickly, what about you? Out of 10, how many think like you?
I would say probably 3 out of 10, but I do see a lot of young people that still have that drive for entrepreneurship, and I do believe it's there. Right. And it's for us and for people that think like us to light that fuse so that we can have the business leaders of tomorrow.
Charlie Kirk, Hadley Heath, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
To North Carolina, where the state just cut back